Chanel is one of the most sought-after fashion brands, and with a yearly revenue of more than $12 billion, that shouldn't come as a big surprise. I mean, the massive French fashion house employs more than 28,000 people across the world in over 300 stores. Over the years, their iconic bags have become a fashion statement that signifies opulence, grandiosity, fashion, class, and luxury. There's no one on the planet who wouldn't want to own a Chanel bag. But how many of us are aware of the life of the woman behind the brand? I bet some of you don't even know what she looks like. A true visionary, Coco Chanel was ahead of her time, and her ideas were unconventional, to say the least. The iconic fashion designer had what you would call a grim childhood. Even though she grew up in poverty that knew no bounds, she still went on to build a fashion empire that outlived her. Who knows, you could even learn a few things from her story. So let's get into it. Stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on post notifications. We have a lot of interesting content for you, and if you love this video, hit the like button. Gabrielle Bonheur Coco Chanel was born on August 19, 1883 in Salmore, a very little town in western France. You probably wouldn't have guessed it if you saw how she turned out later in life. Chanel's early years were anything but classy. Her life was literally the definition of an abject poverty. One could even say it was plagued by misfortune. Her mother, Jeanne de Vol, who was a laundry woman, and her father, Albert Chanel, a peddler who sold work clothing and undergarments on the black market, were not really making enough to take care of the family. Even though Gabrielle's middle name Bonheur is French for luck, that was far from the situation in her case. At the age of 12, her mother passed away from tuberculosis. Finding it extremely difficult to take care of 5 kids, her dad placed her and her sisters in an orphanage managed by nuns. Sadly, that was the last time they ever saw their dad. To make matters worse, Chanel's life didn't exactly start off on the right foot. To start with, her last name was misspelled as Chaznel on her birth registry, a small mistake that would haunt her for years to come. In addition, her life was so terribly plagued and riddled by misfortune that she had to make up stories just to cover up her wretched background. Trust me, living in an orphanage isn't easy. It's even worse when it's handled by nuns. You literally can't do anything, and in Chanel's case, it was even worse. She couldn't even sneeze without getting a scolding. She felt so miserable in the orphanage, she couldn't wait to become an adult and escape those orphanage walls. Chanel's journey from the orphanage to the runway was like a grueling marathon. Long, tough, and full of ups and downs that would make even the strongest shiver. She was tested to her very limit and pushed to the brink. The only enjoyable part of her time in the orphanage was that she learned how to sew and got really good at it. She never knew it would be a skill that would make her an iconic designer. When she turned 18, she was released from the orphanage and sent to a Catholic boarding house in the town of Melisse. It was like a dream come true for her. She was finally out of the prison she hated so much. She spent her holidays with her family and spent much time perfecting her skill. And in no time, she got a job as a seamstress working for a local tailor. To earn some extra cash, she decided to work at a cafe as a singer. Let me tell you, her voice was out of this world. She was so good, her singing earned her the nickname Coco. Now, this talented woman had one heck of a limitless mindset. She was determined to succeed and wasn't shy to use the means she had to get what she wanted. Whether it was charm, smarts, or just plain old hustle, she was willing to do what it took to get what she wanted. After pursuing a short singing career, she moved to Deauville, where she met Etienne Balsan, an ex-military officer with a rich background and the heir of a textile fortune. Wasn't she just lucky? Before she met the wealthy playboy Balsan at 23, Chanel worked at various establishments, from resorts to bars. But once she hooked up with Balsan, things took a turn. Their relationship quickly got steamy, and in no time, she was Balsan's mistress. He whisked her to his private chateau where he played polo, and Chanel often rode alongside him, dressed in practical men's attire. She loved mingling with the wealthy aristocrats, and Balsan was a ticket to the high life. Chanel embraced the luxurious lifestyle with open arms and developed a taste for the finer things: diamonds, contemporary fashion, and pearls. Within a short period, she met a new beau, the wealthy English industrialist Arthur Edward Boy Capel. He gave her a Parisian apartment and financed her first store. Guess he had more to offer than Balsan, wouldn't you say? With his financial assistance, Coco opened her very first store, a hat boutique in Paris which she called Chanel Modes. Her unique designs quickly became sensational in the city after French actress Gabrielle Bonheur wore one of her hats in a famous play. Soon, every popular actress and socialite was wearing them. Her hats were elegant and sophisticated, unlike the chunky decorative fruit bowls French women wore at the time. It is like a breath of fresh air for fashion, and people couldn't get enough of it. Before she knew it, her boutique was the go-to spot for all the top actresses of the era. They couldn't resist her fabulous hats, and they helped her become one of the most sought-after designers around. After gaining so much popularity in Paris, Arthur motivated her to open another store in Deauville. It was a pretty unusual decision for her, because she never saw herself going into the clothing line of business. Faithful to her slogan, luxury must be comfortable, otherwise it is not luxury. Her designs stressed simplicity and comfort. Her decision revolutionized women's fashion and relationships with their bodies, and it was a massive success. French women wanted to feel free and empowered, and she had just the right solution to solve that problem. At this point, I'm pretty sure you can tell why she's quite unique compared to other designers. Unfortunately, her shining light grew dim during the World War. During the war, people were struggling to get basic resources like food and shelter, so nobody even had the time to think about getting new luxury clothing, and as expected, Chanel's business collapsed. Men left for the battlefields and their wives took over the daily grind. Chanel, being an iconic designer, understood the requirements of the time and came up with an idea. She made practical changes to her designs and launched a daily collection for women using a signature jersey material. Chanel's first collection was crafted from jersey fabric, which was mostly used for men's underwear at the time. These jersey garments quickly became all the rage in women's fashion because of their simplicity and functionality. It was the first time French women had worn dresses that were comfortable as well as stylish. Chanel said, "I want to give women the possibility to laugh and eat without necessarily having to faint." Her jersey dresses became a huge hit among women in the workforce, and her reputation grew even further in the 1920s. She had turned wartime obstacles into opportunities. Talk about someone being innovative. She's perfect for the title. Although she was conquering the business world effortlessly, her love life wasn't going in the same direction. Capel was so in love with her, but he broke her heart when he told her he was going to get married to the daughter of an English aristocrat. As you can expect, she was so heartbroken, and she felt betrayed. Can't fault Capel really. Although he loved Chanel so much, his background meant he had to marry someone with a title, and sadly Chanel had none attached to her name. It seemed like her world was coming to an end. Chanel remained his mistress, taking solace in the fact that Capel was still present in her life, and they continued to love each other in secret. Sadly, on December the 22nd, 1919, the love of her life met a tragic end. Capel was involved in a car accident and wasn't fortunate enough to survive. He was on his way to visit Chanel when the unfortunate incident happened. She was devastated because she had just lost the only true person she considered family. Chanel was filled with so much anger and loneliness, it ignited a spark in her. She wanted revenge on the elites, whom she blamed for Capel's death and for splitting them apart. She launched a new product, a perfume called Chanel No. 5. It was a perfume that didn't just have one scent. She mixed 5 different scents and created an iconic perfume, which soon became a symbol of class and luxury. Chanel No. 5 became the world's best-selling perfume, even today. However, she faced a challenging issue. With her lover and business partner gone, she needed a new business partner. Back then, women couldn't actually own their own bank accounts, and when it came to business deals, Chanel had no clue how they worked. So in 1924, she found a new business partner, Pierre Wertheimer, who had a lot of experience with luxury and fashion brands. Around this time, her brand logo was unveiled, the interlock C's, which now stand out as a unique symbol. Along with dominating the fashion industry, she was dating the Duke of Westminster. This allowed her to meet famous and wealthy people who helped her achieve her dreams. For someone who started as a very poor woman, she truly made a statement for herself. In 1940, the German army invaded Paris and completely took over the city. Chanel closed her stores, which in turn put a lot of people out of work. She remained in Paris and moved into the Hotel Ritz, where the Nazis had set up their headquarters. This meant Chanel was living among the enemy, and in no time, she was in a relationship with a senior German officer, Hans-Günther Dinklage. I mean, what do you expect? The woman was absolutely gorgeous. Their relationship went on for some time, and at some point, she had turned into a secret spy for the Germans, as they thought they could use her connections to take over the city for good, since she knew how to capture the mind of the elite in the city. For a while, it all seemed like rumors until 2011, when a book was released that pieced it all together. Apparently, she wasn't just a spy. She secretly used her connections to get information for the Germans and help them recruit new soldiers, planning to start another war. By the end of the war, she was already labeled a traitor to France, and when she tried to leave the country, she was arrested. When the war ended, thousands of Parisians who were suspected to have helped the Germans were tried for treason, but somehow Chanel happened to never be on the hook for her crimes. This was quite odd because the Germans admitted that she worked for them as a spy. Apparently, she had a lot of very sensitive and damaging information about the high-ranking British politicians, and they didn't want those details to get out. She also used her connections and wealth to bribe and pay off the family of the chief of the Secret Service to not publish anything about her, hiding her involvement with the Germans. Well, these are the perks of being rich, am I right? After the whole mess had died down, Chanel got a very bad reception in France. Her reputation was shattered, and the House of Chanel was in ruin. It wasn't safe for her to live in Paris, so she fled the country, going to Switzerland, where she hid for almost a decade. However, no fashion icon can truly stay away from the fashion world. She really wanted to rebuild her name and legacy, but France had not forgiven her for her crimes. Upon her return, she was pounced on by the media, who rejected her designs and called them awful. It was all terrible, terrible publicity for her in France. It was a different story in America though. Apparently they had fallen in love with her new designs and wanted to get a feel of the Chanel brand. Soon her designs were popular with American celebrities and she was back in the game. Even in her old age, she was still launching successful designs, but the reign of an iconic designer ended in 1971. Not long after, creative director Karl Lagerfeld took over and helped grow the business even further. The House of Chanel continues to be an extremely famous brand that inspires prominent fashion designers. The reality is that opinions on Chanel will be divided, but I will leave you with a quote from Coco Chanel herself. That's possibly the most ruthlessly epic quote I've ever heard. "I don't care what you think about me. I don't think about you at all." We are still left with the mind-blowing question, what should we think of Coco Chanel? We can't ignore the fact that Coco Chanel can be accredited with some of the most influential creations in fashion history. Considering that she started from a poor beginning, she took life by the horns and became a world icon. However, her actions in the war were subject of many publications and biographies. So, how can we have love for the brand and also have love for the orphan behind it? It's always so amusing why luxury brands have such controversial stories, don't you think?